What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about sports analytics and how you can get started, because getting started is probably the hardest part of it. And once you're kind of in the flow of things, it's a lot easier. Trust me. Where I was about 9 months ago, I had no idea how to get started with sports analytics. So I'm hoping that this video can help a lot of people out that are wanting to just get started and kind of learn more about the sports analytics community and what really it all entails. Anyways, a little bit about my story. About 9 months ago, I was just kind of a person who saw a lot of cool sports analytics stuff on Twitter, as well as on Reddit, and kind of just a couple different blogs and YouTube videos. And being a master's of data analytics student, I wanted to know, hey, how can I get started with this, and how can I really turn this into a hobby and kind of do this? It was right when the pandemic hit, and so I was just kind of like, well, I'm here at home, might as well find something to do. But it's really turned out to be one of my passions and a really fun hobby I've had for the past year or so. So today I want to talk about how a beginner can get started in sports analytics. One of the biggest things that people see with sports analytics and just stuff that they see, the end production, is the visualizations. So being able to create these visualizations is probably what a lot of people want to do, but there's a lot more than just creating visualizations and creating different graphs for sports analytics. Sure, that's a big part of it, but one thing that I do recommend a lot of people learn if they want to work for like a club in soccer, football, or if they want to work for like a organization, such as if you want to work for like an MLB organization or an NFL team, that you really start to understand coding, specifically Python or R. So the reason for these is they are the two most popular languages for data science, as well as SQL or SQL. I'm honestly no idea how to say it. SQL, SQL, whatever you want to say. It's cool here. You can say whatever. No judgment zone. Learning Python or R is really kind of, I think it's necessary now. You can't just know Excel. Sure, you can do a lot of cool things with Excel, but if you're wanting to get into the kind of data science realm of sports analytics, you're wanting to really become and kind of work with these top organizations and clubs and teams, then knowing Python or R is going to put you at a huge advantage over those who don't. And the reason for this is because a lot of the data science work that's done in like these clubs and teams is stuff that they want to try and automate, and stuff that they want to be able to create data pipelines for. So essentially they just want to be able to get their data, and they don't want to have to be manually typing stuff into Excel. And you can actually, if you're like, hey, well, I just want to make cool visualizations, well, you can actually do that with both Python and R, and you can customize them a lot more than if you were just doing stuff in Excel. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer if you're into sports analytics to learn Python or R. And I would definitely recommend that you combine that with learning the data visualization package of Tableau. And Tableau is really good for making quick and easy visualizations, and it's kind of just drag and drop. I've talked about it before on the channel. You can check it out. I'll link it right here somewhere. But that was kind of cool. Coding and specifically learning Python or R is going to be crucial if you really want to make sports analytics a career. And when I'm talking about sports analytics, I really want to mention that I'm talking about doing analytics and not just like evaluating tactics, but we're really using numbers, and we're implementing numbers and statistics into the game. But speaking about tactics, let's talk about understanding tactics of the game, because if you don't understand the game, then you're not going to be able to choose the right numbers to be able to perform analysis. And I get at this because a lot of people, they want to start getting into sports analytics, but they don't really know what metrics and kind of the different tactics of the game that are really important to the game. For example, there's a widely controversial metric in soccer right now. It's called expected goals, XG. And the reason why it's so controversial is because a lot of the people who just want to use tactics and just want to use, well, they played like this and they lost 0-1, so yada, 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 they sucked. And then the people who are kind of more into the data analytics and kind of the advanced metrics, they're saying, well, they had 6 shots on target and this accumulated 9.83 XG, which is actually impossible. I just realized. They had 6 shots on target and they only accumulated 0.2 XG total and yada, yada, yada. The big issue here is that a lot of people, they're getting started with sports analytics. They don't understand the tactics. They don't understand a lot of the different sides of metrics and why metrics can be beneficial into the tactics. So being able to understand the tactics is really going to help you understand the game more and understand the metrics more. But if you really want to understand your metrics and your analysis better, you really should be understanding the tactics, because this is going to help you be able to present to people who may not be using the statistics every day. For example, or a baseball manager probably isn't going to know what wins above replacement is unless they're kind of more into the statistical stuff. So being able to understand the tactics and kind of understand the different things about the sport that you're interested in is going to help you significantly in being able to convey your analysis and your statistics and your different observations over to somebody who's not as statistically inclined. And then number 3 is a really important one. It is self-promotion. So really, when you get started with sports analytics is such a competitive field track if you are wanting to work for an organization or a club or a team. So one thing that you are really going to need to do, and it's something that a lot of people don't do, is you're going to need to have some sort of self-promotion. And by this, I mean you're going to have to put out your work so that people can really understand what your work is about, what you can do, and you can connect with other people all across the globe, across the country, wherever you live. But the cool thing about sports analytics is a lot of the people who are in charge of these clubs are in charge of recruiting for these different teams and clubs and organizations. They're all on Twitter, or they all have a newsletter. Maybe you can find them on LinkedIn or something. Being able to self-promote and have them see your work is going to get you a foot in the door. I mean, there's definitely been times where I've gotten presented opportunities for just stuff that I posted on Twitter, and I've been able to connect with a lot of people who are working at clubs, who are also in organizations that are heavily focused on, for example, data journalism, like, for example, The Athletic. There's a lot of people on Twitter that I've been able to connect with. LinkedIn, I know, is a great place that you can start to put your work out. It's really great organic reach. So this is really more just understanding how to get into sports analytics. It's not really understanding how to do sports analytics, if that makes sense, and if you want to make sports analytics a career. But really, you shouldn't feel like your stuff needs to be perfect at first. Even though all those top people are on social media somewhere, you can definitely just start putting stuff out, start putting out what you're working on, and put out kind of just your progress, and that's going to show your consistency, your dedication to sports analytics. And eventually, a lot of these people over time are going to start becoming interested in your subject, especially if you're very niche. I mean, even when I first started putting stuff out on Twitter, my visualizations were horrible. But even though they were horrible at first, I've been able to learn from a lot of other people, which is another great part of putting yourself out there. And as well, there's a lot of different ways that you can actually kind of put yourself out there. You don't need to be just doing Twitter. You can have a YouTube channel, for example, or you can start a podcast. You can do a lot of different things around sports analytics that doesn't just involve working at a club or working at an organization, a team. You can really create a lot of different opportunities for yourself by putting yourself out there and kind of putting your work out there, which is one thing that I recommend to a lot of beginners outside of just coding and learning tactics, is that you're putting yourself out there. So anyways, those are my 3 tips for getting started with sports analytics. I recommend that if you haven't started learning coding, you start there. If you know how to code but you want to learn more about the sport, jump into the tactics, find some cool books. And then as well, while you're doing both of those, start posting your progress, start posting different things you're working on. And even if you have been doing that, try and innovate and try and find new ways, different ideas, and different things that you can do that are really going to differentiate yourself from other people. Because like I mentioned, it's really competitive. But the cool thing is, if you are consistent and you think long-term with sports analytics, there's definitely going to be a lot of opportunities that are available to you. So that's it for this one, guys. If you want to see more content on sports analytics, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Would really appreciate it. Arigato. See you in the next video. I always want to speak Russian. No, I speak Spanish. It's just a little talk after, like, if you stayed for this long, you can just kind of get to know me a little bit more. I speak Spanish. I can say like 3 sentences in French. I can say a couple things in Italian. Portuguese, I think I can like say a paragraph. English, kind of fluent. Spanish, I'm fluent. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. Ciao.